Alright, let's rock and roll. We're on the home stretch. Well, Counsel, is your argument in fact demonstrable? Are you able to show proof the disc of the Boxer in any tangible way related to the case? Well, what's the matter, Runo? We know they're related, don't we? They're both vital pieces of evidence. You and I both know that. We know McGilded's true character, and we know the disc is significant, even if we don't know why. But if we explain all that to the court at this point, we'll have to acknowledge that McGilded's acquittal 2 months ago was a mistake. That the defense's argument was a flawed, based on false information. Oh no! And that would mean admitting that Gina committed perjury. But Ginny, could it be that Van Zieks knows? Is that why he's doing this now? Because he anticipated everything. Maybe. This could be a great opportunity for us. What is it that you always say, Bruno? Sooner or later, the truth comes out. Every time. Alright, the exact significance of the things that Mr. McGilded's deposited with Mr. Windibank is something that only Gina can explain to the court. But if I put her on the stand to testify about that, it could critically damage our chances of winning this case. Right thing to do here is we have to have her testify. My lord, the defense would like to make a proposal. Oh, what proposal, counsel? While the court awaits the arrival of Mr. McGilded's small box, I would like to call the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, to the witness stand. The defendant? To what end? It's to do with the various articles deposited at Windibanks by Mr. McGilded, my lord. Miss Lestrade has information relating to them. I believe it would be beneficial for the court to hear what she has to say. It's do or die time. It will prove the significance of the articles in questions once and for all. Well, well, things are becoming interesting. I presume you've considered the implications of the testimony you're proposing. In particular, the impact it will have on the accused's standing, and indeed your own. I have. We're not getting out of this unscathed. Lord Van Zieks, would you care to explain that last remark? The prosecution accepts the defense's proposal. I move to interrupt the cross-examination of the current witness and hear from the accused herself. Very well, if you have no objection. So the court will now hear the testimony of the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade. Your witnesses currently in the stand may step down until further notice. You don't have your hat anymore. I shall bid you good day. Wait. You, sir, shall remain in the stand while Miss Lestrade testifies. As you wish. All right then, Gina. It's time. I know this will be hard, but please put your faith in me here. Good luck, Runo. The articles that Mr. McGilded had deposited in Mr. Windibank's pawnbrokery are intimately related with the omnibus case, the trial of which was heard in this courtroom 2 months ago. Yes, and I remember this young lady being brought before me in that trial as well. That's right, my lord. Her testimony helped to establish the innocence of the defendant, Mr. McGilded. The omnibus case was intriguing, to say the least. And now here we all are again, the same players in that trial facing each other once more. A twist of fate, perhaps, my Nipponese friend. Allow me to recap the events of 2 months ago. An old brickmaker was stabbed to death in an omnibus running along London's winter streets. Apart from the victim, there was only one other person in the carriage, Mr. McGilded. Naturally, he was the prime suspect for the murder. But as the trial progressed, another possibility emerged, that the murder in fact took place above the defendant's head in a roof deck. with the body then being dropped through the skylight into the carriage below. It was Miss Lestrade whose testimony brought that possibility to light. At the time of the incident, Miss Lestrade was concealed under a seat under the carriage, hoping to pick the pockets of unsuspecting passengers. Then, immediately after the trial, having been acquitted of the murder, Mr. McGilda died in this very courtroom in the most extraordinary of circumstances. A mystery that remains unsolved even now, 2 months on, as indeed does the omnibus murder itself. Be that as it may, I recall neither the disc nor the small box being mentioned in the course of those proceedings. Miss Lestrade, would you tell the court now, please, what really happened in the omnibus 2 months ago, I mean? I don't know what you mean. I already said all of what I know. And what about everything you told us yesterday from inside your prison cell? Please, Miss Lestrade, this is extremely important. But remember, little girl, if it transpires you willfully withheld information in the trial 2 months ago, the Home Office will seek to prosecute you for perjury. And naturally, you will lose all credibility as a witness. Although, let's face facts, you've little credibility to lose. Ginny, don't listen to him. Please, you have to trust Bruno now. Iris, we're on your side. Alright then, I'll talk. It's the right choice, Gina. Well, it would seem that my learned friend is hell-bent on bringing the entire courtroom down upon his ears. So be it. I must confess I'm struggling to understand what on earth is happening here. However, it would appear Mr. McGilder's pawned articles in that extraordinary case of the omnibus harbor secrets of which we have been hitherto unaware. So, Miss Lestrade, you will now give your testimony before the court about the events of 2 months ago. You will reveal the truth, a commodity sorely lacking in your original statements. This is it then, everything's going to come out. Like Van Ziek said. This could bring the whole courtroom down about my ears, but as a lawyer, I'm prepared to take that risk. The real truth of the omnibus case. Truth is that Brickmaker Cove was in the cabin of the omnibus the whole time. When the Irishman dragged me out from under the seat, I saw that disc on the floor. All of a sudden I heard a scream from above me head, and the pair on the roof dog went off to call the slops. That's when McGilder slipped the driver some tin to do a run to the pawn shop roundabout. He threatened me not to snitch, not to say nothing to no one about what I'd seen or heard. Good grief, this is outrageous! What you've just told the court bears almost no resemblance to your testimony 2 months ago. As you say, my lord. But then there's every chance I may have adjudicated an error in McGilder's trial. It sounds very much to me as if the man deliberately deceived this court. No shit. In an effort to cover up the most wicked of schemes. Without doubt, your lordship is correct. A great injustice was done in this courtroom 2 months ago. The actions of the accused in that trial, of this witness, and my learned friend are entirely inexcusable. I don't believe it! The whole trial was a farce. It was all lies. McGilder fellow was rotten to the core, just like that pickpocket. Don't forget that lawyer from the east. They were all in it together. You're wrong, that lot of ya. Mr. Naraoto, the lawyer there, didn't know nothing about it. Humbug! I don't think so. Are we really expected to believe that? He really stitched everyone up, didn't he? What an operation to get the men off scot-free. Unforgivable. Stop. The lies have to stop. Stop. Yes, the defense made a terrible error of judgment. I intend to take full responsibility and suffer whatever consequences are deemed appropriate. However, it's imperative that the court allows the witness to elaborate on her testimony, because the true significance of McGilder's pawned articles must be brought to light. Very well, my learned student friend. Given the depths of calamity you've just plunged yourself into, this may very well be worth hearing. Words fail me. This situation is utterly deplorable. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, my lord. I will decide upon your fate following the conclusion of this trial. Of course, my lord. Blimey, Mr. Naruhodo. Now, counsel, proceed with the cross-examination. Yeah, we're in deep trouble. But we didn't know. Alrighty. Truth is, a brickmaker covers in a... Alright. And you were hiding in the cabin at the time as well, weren't you, Miss Lestrade? If I remember rightly, in the storage compartment underneath one of the seats. Yeah, that's right. It's pitch black under there, so you can't see nothing at all. Now in your testimony 2 months ago, I feel certain you claimed Mr. McGilded was the sole passenger, did you not? False testimony, my lord. That's why he told me I had to say. But it's important that you tell us the truth now. Were Mr. McGilded and the victim acquaintances? I didn't know. But I did hear him talking a lot. What were they talking about? Well, I couldn't hear too well. But if I had to say... I think it was about money or something. They kept talking about buying and not buying. Perhaps business dealings of some kind. Well, anyway, they got louder and louder, and it started to sound like a proper fight. I was pretty scared by then. Hardly dared to breathe, and then, all of a sudden, I heard a noise like someone keeling over on the floor. It was blooming loud and all. And I believe you let out an involuntary scream. Yeah. Oh? Something's up here. That's what gave me away. When the Irishman dragged me out from under the seat, I saw that disc on the floor. Hold it! Excuse me. Is there something you'd like to share with the court, Inspector Gregson and Mr. Gregson? Inspector! Mr. Graydon! Why? Blimey, you're trying to give me a heart attack. You've been whispering to each other for quite some time now. Tell us what the discussion is about. Discussion? With this fella? Pull the other one, Sunshine. You think I got anything to talk about a shady gent like this? And I've nothing to say to this uncouth detective after he deprived me of that disc that was rightfully mine. But they've clearly been talking the entire time I've been cross-examining Gina. It's as if they've been negotiating. You will kindly refrain from talking amongst yourselves while the witness is giving testimony. Yes, sorry, my lord. What were those two talking about? Miss Lestrade, continue with your testimony, please. Hold it! Those are the guys on the roof. They must have looked down through the skylight and noticed the coat with a knife in his guts. And they screamed. The driver pulled up the horses, and McGilded got out of sight. Out of sight? Where? Back under the seat where I started off. There was a carriage came into an alt. The two coves with a roof ran off to fetch the slops. If they immediately left to fetch the police, it would appear they were entirely unrelated to the incident. So that left McGilded, the driver, and you still at the scene. Yeah, only the driver didn't know I was there because I was under the seat. I heard this cabin door open and a voice from outside. The driver, yes, he also testified in the trial, I believe. A fellow who went by the name of Beppo, if memory serves. What did McGilded and the driver say to each other? I don't know what happened, and stuff like that mainly. That's when McGill slipped the driver some tin to do a run to the pawn shop roundabout. That pawn shop obviously being Windibank's on Baker Street. Just a moment, Counsel. Do you mean to tell me the driver gave false testimony in that trial as well? Perhaps the excursion to the pawnbrokery slipped his mind when he was in the stand. Indeed, Lord Van Zeeks. McGill took off his coat and gave it to the driver. He folded it up all careful-like before handing it over. When I saw him do that, I remember thinking, that coat and what's in it has got to be worth a few bob. Gina was sure the disc must be worth more than Mr. Windibank was suggesting, wasn't she? I remember quibbling with him over the price that afternoon. The driver looked pretty happy when McGill flashed some brass in his face. He went running off at a lick. And then the bog trotter called me and told me to come out from the drag's cabin. He threatened me not to snitch, not to say nothing to no one what I've seen or heard. Threatened you how exactly? Told me I'd only be able to scop her if I did exactly what he said. Which is included giving false testimony in court 2 months ago? Yeah, that's it. And there was one other thing he said. Which was... He told me I'd have to hang on to the ticket from the pawn shop and make sure not to lose it. The ticket? Well, I never. Said that if he didn't show up to get the ticket off me before 2 months passed, I had to go to the pawn shop and pay the money to keep it in lug. Stop it from being forfeited. He left me with some brass to pay for it. But really? Why on earth would Mr. McGill have done such a thing? Depositing his own overcoat with a pawnbroker before the arrival of the police. It makes no sense at all. There would seem to be only one logical explanation, my lord. What McGill had the driver deposited into banks was something he didn't want the police to see. Something very important that he needed to hide at all costs. Anyway, after that, he let me go, so I legged it before the coppers showed up. Well done, Gina. It can't have been easy to tell the truth like that. Alrighty. I need to use the time we have now to get as much information out of her as possible. I've done all of it. It was right next to the cove lying on the floor. Could this disc have belonged to the victim, perhaps? I don't know, but McGill had picked it up pretty smartish. And then he sat the cove with a knife and his belly up on the seat. What did he say to you at that time? He told me not to say a word about what I've seen or heard to no one. About the disc and all. I was dead scared, the way he was looking at me. I thought, if I didn't go along with it, I'll get stuck with that knife too. Then he started asking me a load of questions, like what my name was and where I lived and that. Asked me about being a diver too. After a while, what had happened in the carriage was noticed. Yeah, that's right. First it was kind of rapping noise. Thank you, Miss Lestrade. Thank you, Counsel. I've heard enough. I believe we now have a reasonable understanding of what actually transpired on the omnibus. It would appear on that night 2 months ago, a negotiation was taking place on the omnibus. A negotiation concerning this disc. However, matters did not run smoothly. When the parties involved began to quarrel over price, McGill took what he wanted by force, at the expense of the other man's life. Which proves my point. The disc is clearly extremely valuable in some way. Although I don't understand why as of yet. And yet, 2 days ago, precisely 2 months after the omnibus incident, Mr. McGilded's coat and its contents were due to be forfeited. I didn't know what I should do with a ticket. I mean, the cove died right after his trial, I knew that. So you decided you would try to claim the articles as your own. Well, why not, eh? They were only going to be forfeited. Why shouldn't I have got them? Anyway, you can't blame me for thinking about it. Thinking ain't no crime. Miss Lestrade, it would appear Mr. McGilded was prepared to kill in order to take possession of this disc. Do you know why that would be? I ain't got a clue. But I reckon it must be worth a fair bit of brass. He was probably gonna sell it. And you can't blame me for thinking that. Thinking ain't no crime. My lord! The evidence your lordship has requested has been located and is ready for court's inspection, sir. Alrighty. A mysterious little box deposited by McGilded 2 months ago. There's no doubt in my mind that it's a key piece in this far-reaching puzzle. Saving in the middle of this. Alright, case part 4. Let's go. There it is. So this is the article in question, is it? The small box deposited with the pawnbroker by Mr. McGilded 2 months ago, and on the night of Mr. Windibank's murder, the only item on the shelves that was touched by whoever broke in the shop. Quick, quick, let's open it and see what's inside. It's a music box. Good gracious, this is no ordinary box, it seems. Wow, although in truth I had an inkling what it might be the case. It would appear that the box houses a miniature music box movement. Then it is too much to expect. I would think it's reasonable to assume this is a device for the playback of this disc, my lord. So, here we have the means to play back Mr. McGilded's disc deposited in Mr. Windibank's at much the same time. Not strictly correct, my lord. It was not Mr. McGilded's disc. It's the disc of the victim of the omnibus. But why, for heaven's sake? Are we to understand the brickmaker was trying to sell this music box disc to Mr. McGilded? Can I go to the bathroom? I believe the answer will become clear if we listen to the music on the disc, my lord. Yes, very well. Let the court now listen to this curious disc at last. Why, my lord! You don't want to know what's on this disc, do you? Good grief! What is the meaning of this, Inspector? The music box and the disc, were they unrelated to the case? No need to spoil the somber atmosphere in the court with some silly bit of music. The disc may very well have motivated the culprit in the case to commit murder. Clearly there's every chance that it's fundamentally important to understanding what happened. The prosecution has no objection. No! That piece of evidence is police property now. You can't... Clearly Scotland Yard has some vested interest here. But it is policy of this prosecutor to leave no avenues unexplored. And you, Inspector, have no jurisdiction here to prevent that from happening. Hey! No further delays, please. Play the disc! Not much of a song. It's only like 3 notes. But it sounds like Morse code. What on earth? That's certainly not what I would call music. No. It's the same note playing over and over again in an irregular sequence. There's a sensational story lore down the front page as well, look. Ministry Mole. Classified secrets may have been leaked overseas from Ministry of Justice. For a 10-year-old, Iris certainly has her finger on the pulse of the world news. It's about secret communications between Great Britain and its allies. Apparently they're being intercepted by hostile nations. Communications are being intercepted, but how could somebody be doing that? That's the question, isn't it? I've come up with 3 different possible methods so far. Are you looking for a new career, Runa? No, of course not. I wonder. This is what Lord Strongheart was talking about yesterday. And it could explain why is Gregsy running from pillar to post at the moment. Mr. Graydon, this really is priceless. After all that, the music box is broken. Broken? It can't be, can it? Well, obviously. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the officer sent to fetch it didn't drop it on the way back to the courtroom. Well, with much regret, I feel the court must accept this music box offers little in the way of clues. I don't think so. We are not ready. Alrighty. That's not music. It has meaning, that's definitely it. I believe that it could be relevant, my lord. Good lord! But how can it be? It's an abomination council. Mere noise! I fail to see how it can have any meaning whatsoever. You obviously don't know about Morse code, do you? While Graydon stands there chortling victoriously, the inspector beside him has a rather telling expression on his face. It's as if Gregson recognizes the sound and he's familiar with it somehow. And that's making him appear extremely on edge. If that's the stance of the defense, my Nipponese friend, answer me this. Oh? Just what relevance do you propose this woeful chiming has on this case? Defense's belief that the sound emanating from this is not meant to be music. Just because this is a music box, it doesn't necessarily mean the sounds we're hearing are music. What? Look at that. The smile vanished from Graydon's lips as soon as I said it. If I'm on the right lines here, I must be. I used to be really into cryptography when I was a lot younger. And by a lot meaning when I was in high school. That included learning about Morse code. Heh, making deductions based on how people react to what you say. You're acting just like Hurley, Bruno. Objection! The sounds we're hearing aren't necessarily music. Well, now that you've told us what they are not. I'm sure the court would like to hear what they are. Do enlighten us, my Nipponese friend. Well, surely you have an idea in mind, because if not, it will be the death of your ill-formed argument. Exactly. The music box is clearly broken. Refusing to accept that fact is pure foolishness. They've got me. I don't know what the answer is, yet. Bruno, I've just examined the box very thoroughly, and I'm fairly certain that it's not broken at all. Really? Really? The way it's been made, it can only produce a single note anyway. So it's only one note. It must mean that the sound it's producing has some significance that isn't musical. Ah! Could it be? Is that what these sounds are? Something's just struck me, Bruno. I feel like recently, in the past few hours even, I've heard another sound very much like the one this music box makes. Yes, it's a familiar sound. Actually, Iris, I was just thinking exactly the same thing. If I'm going to have to press the defense for an answer, if your assertion is that the sound produced by this music is not music, what the devil is it, counsel? All the evidence we've seen so far, all the testimony we've heard, one single answer. The prosecution demands that my learned Nipponese friend presents proof now. Tangible proof of this latest wild... you know. Alrighty. Join all the dots together. The evidence that explains the true nature of this is... today's paper, counsel. The headline is, Pawnbroker perishes in pick-purse plunder. Hardly supportive of your cause. No, my lord, I was hoping you'd look a little further down the page. Further down. Ministry mole. Classified secrets may have been leaked overseas from Ministry of Justice. Yes, this is a very serious matter being investigated at the highest level, I understand. I've heard that international transmissions along supposedly secure lines are somehow being intercepted. And leaked to various other countries. And presumably, those transmissions are in the form of wired telegrams? Of course. Juror number 5, you're in foot, please. Stop. Oh, me, sir? What is the matter? You told the courtroom before you worked at the same communication station as Mr. Graydon. Did you not? Yes, that's correct. And the particular station where you work deals with government communications and newspaper reports? Oh yes, we're not your run-of-the-mill communication station at all. Our work is extremely important. Then tell me, is this not a very familiar sound? Yeah, it's the same note. Morse code. You don't mean to say, is it? That's right, madam. It bears more than a passing resemblance to the sound made by your telegraph machine as you tap it. I believe it's called Morse code. But I don't believe it. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but when it comes to leaking telegrams from government departments, there could be nobody more perfectly placed than a highly skilled communications officer. Are you suggesting that the music box disc contains stolen government secrets and Morse code? Order! Order! Please, everyone, order! But this is high treason, counsel, deserving of capital punishment. Too much new vocabulary. What is treason? And what is capital punishment? The sorts of words I'd half expect you to know. For our sovereign government's confidential information, hostile nations would surely pay almost any price. Yes, and on that night 2 months ago, that was the very negotiation that was taking place inside the omnibus. But in the end, the Gilded perished, and the all-important disc lay unclaimed in the pawnbrokery. My word! In which case, whoever stole that information in the first place must surely have been beside himself with worry. Because if the disc were to be discovered before it found its way out of the country, it would reveal an act of high treason punishable by death. So the culprit had no choice but to retrieve it. In order to do that, he would have to gain entry to the pawnbrokery illegally in the middle of the night. Because the article left behind Mr. McGilded would incriminate him too much if it got into the wrong hands. Isn't that right, Mr. Graydon? You think I've been stealing government secrets? Preposterous! Absolutely preposterous! So in response to the defense's accusation, you claim complete innocence, do you? Well, of course I do. I've had to stand here in silence while that pretentious foreign lawyer has been prattling away. Objection! Then by all means, counter the charges, sir. The prosecution demands the witness testifies. In response to the accusations brought by the defense. Delighted, I'm sure. The The witness is reminded that the crime under scrutiny is the trial of the murder of the pawnbroker, Mr. Windibank. That being a most flagitious offence, for which the law of the land sanctions a capital punishment. But the heinous crime of high treason is no less a serious crime. I urge you to bear that in mind as you testify, Mr. Graydon. So then, let us proceed. You may... You're gonna let us have a rabbit and pork, you governor. We got things to say. I beg your pardon. What do you... Who do you think you are? Name's Ned Skulkin. Occupation is professional Betty. Name's Ringo Skulkin, but we ain't Betty's enough to sell out our motherland. That's right. We're what they call the Three Skulkin Brothers. Bad timing, fellas. Very bad timing. A mere communications officer couldn't possibly steal confidential government information. Besides, the sound produced by that music box aren't even Morse code. It was some low-caste brickmaker negotiation with Mr. McGilded, was it not? I've no relation to the man. I wouldn't say that. Look, all we done is break into the gaff the other night like we were told to do. If we'd known there was dodgy government secrets involved, we wouldn't have touched it. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin? What Mr.'ll do, Governor? What's up? Do I take it that you now admit to the crime? That on the night in question, you did indeed gain entry to the premises illegally? And moreover, you did so as a party of 3 in collaboration with Mr. Graydon here. We did, Gov, we did. Quieten down, please. What say you to that, Mr. Graydon? I've no idea what these 2 ruffians are referring to. You little roarer, getting us mixed up in this monkey business. You never said nothing about no government secrets. It was supposed to be a straight-up job. What the heck? Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Now what about the old geezer whose shop it was, eh? Poor old bloke didn't have to die, did he? Nice to know who your friends are. Whatever these men say, I deny the accusations. You are being Kyrsis, Alba. Well, I certainly wasn't expecting this little music box to become so significant in the proceedings. However, as it has, I will admit it to the court record as evidence. Alrighty, here we go. And not. To anyone with a brain, that would be blatantly apparent, and listening with that music box for even a few seconds. Of course, of course. Surely it can't be that my learned friend is unfamiliar with Morse code. Ouch. He looks genuinely shocked at my ignorance. I would be more than happy to demonstrate the basics for you, sir. A lesson, here in court. Morse code is a continuous series of 2 distinct tones. Yeah, dits and das. Short and long. Yes, a short dot and a long dash. By combining those 2 in different ways, you construct letters. I see. For example, this is A. This is B. But when you listen to the sound produced by this music box, you only hear one tone, don't you? It sounds so similar. The rhythm is the same in everything. But there's no discernible meaning to this apparently random sequence of sounds. Unless that's only one set of sounds. No! Ow! Ow. Ha 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 ha. What did I tell you? That music box is nothing but a worthless piece of scrap. Perhaps you might consider studying a subject matter before casting aspersions in the future. Stop. Nothing to say but stop. Oh, it's so frustrating, isn't it? I mean, if the government secrets were somehow being leaked using a music box, so many other things would slot into place so nicely. Could there still be something I haven't considered? Would it really be impossible to use this music box to play back Morse code? There's still every possibility this music box was instrumental in the leaking of government secrets. That's the belief of the defense, at least.
Objection!
Does it please you in some way, my Nipponese friend, to repeat the same line of argument ad infinitum? If it works... It's already been established that to be Morse code, 2 tones are required. Dots and dashes. Yes, I'm well aware of that. Then what? Well, it would appear the defense has a hypothesis to put forward. You'd better present your idea at once, counsel. How do you propose this music box, which appears to promote only a single note, could have been used to decipher secret messages into Morse code? Oh? What's down here? Oh. I've just noticed something about this music box. It looks like the bottom of it opens up as well. Well, well, well. It's another music box. If you had 2 discs, they could both play at the same time.
Got it!
Good gracious! What am I looking at here? Another movement on the underside of this music box. What? Oh. It appears, my lord, that the 2 movements are linked together. In other words, you can put 2 discs in this music box, and the sounds of both will play back at the same time. Good heavens! And the court has heard Morse comprises of 2 tones, a short dot, and a long dash. With a second disc in place, that music box could be used to generate Morse code to convey a message. This is beyond a joke. I'm sorry. This poor excuseful lawyer has absolutely no evidence to support his claims. Though, of course, if my learned friend were able to present the court with the second disc, that would be another matter. Well, I can't, at the moment. And may I remind the court that, as the witness has pointed out, he was not the one in the omnibus with Mr. McGilded 2 days ago, striking a deal over the disc or discs. Indeed, that was Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. Exactly. I had nothing whatsoever to do with it. I wouldn't be too sure. Though it has holes, I must admit the argument presented by the defense has much promise. I believe the cross-examination should continue. The link between Graydon and the victim of the omnibus case must be there somewhere. But I haven't found it yet. Oh dear, looks like you need to give your arguments more strength, Bruno. You will reiterate your testimony, if you please, Mr. Graydon. If I must, though, I must maintain exactly what I did at the start of this pointless cross-examination. We'll do that next time.